My guest today is Ron Kaufman, who I've actually known for at least 15 years. And Ron is known as the world's leading educator and motivator for uplifting customer service and building service cultures. He's based in Singapore and is an incredible speaker who's been presenting keynote speeches and workshops on every continent for more than 20 years, inspiring millions. His latest book is Uplifting Service: The Proven Path for Delighting Your Customers, Colleagues, and Everyone Else You Meet. Ron, are you ready to delight us?
I'm delighted to be with you.
It's so good to reconnect.
Yeah, Joan, you and I go way back. It's a pleasure to hear the vibrancy in your voice. Just as you were back then, you certainly are today.
All right. Well, you know, when I got your latest book and I read the introduction, I love that story about your life as an ultimate Frisbee player. And it was really interesting to see how you relate that to what you're doing now. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that time in your life and how it formed the foundation for some of the principles you teach today.
Absolutely. I was so fortunate. The high school that I went to, Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut, was the second high school in the entire country to have an ultimate Frisbee team. So that gives you a little idea how old I am. And, you know, my body size is not that big. I'm not a football or basketball player, but the Frisbee team would let me play. So even though I was the little guy and often chosen last to be on the team, you know, I got to play the game. Frisbee, in the ultimate Frisbee field, the very first rule is called the spirit of the game. There are no referees. The players make their own calls. We understand that we're out there to compete, but we're also out there to have a good time with each other. And so that spirit and that willingness of the team to let anybody participate, both of those became very strong themes for me that made a lot of sense. And then when I went to college, I spent time in Europe, and Frisbee became my passport. I would cross borders and make friends and go to parks and meet families and get invited home. And I realized with something as simple as a piece of plastic and a smile and a desire to reach out and connect with other people, that we could all connect with each other very easily. And again, that's one of the themes in what I call uplifting service, that it's really about the connection between people.
And isn't that really what people are looking for in their lives, is connection?
Yeah, so looking for, in some cases, almost starving for. I mean, when you look at what's happening today in terms of digital media and the speed of things and the way, you know, media and advertising have penetrated our homes and our houses and our communities, and how dysfunctional and fragmented families can become, you know, people are really starving in the heart in a certain way to just have a real, genuine, caring human connection with somebody else. And that's wonderful when you've got it with your grandmother, and it's great when you have it with your girlfriend or your partner, but it can even be something that communicates over the phone, over the counter, through an email exchange. When you really dedicate yourself to taking care of other people, then the connection can happen, even though we don't necessarily have a long-term, you know, more intimate relationship with each other.
And I think in terms of customer service, when you're dealing with the big companies and the people you're talking to are just using stock phrases like, "I'm so sorry you did that." And
right. Your call is very important to us.
and it's so frustrating because you know they don't care who you are and there's no connection. Yeah. Every once in a while, you'll find someone who has the ability to feel like they're connecting to you, but that's missing most of the time.
Right. And what you've pointed to is really a breakdown in many large organizations and small companies who don't understand the importance of building a culture of what I call uplifting service. So let me explain, you know, why there's so many robots out there, why there's so many people who are just reading the script or just going through the motions, but their heart's not in it.
Please, you know, please tell us. Yes.
You know, one of the great flaws, one of the great problems is this thing that is called customer service training.
Uh-huh.
And you would think that a guy like me who makes his living educating companies about service wouldn't be against it, but you train someone, you know, what to do in a certain way in a certain situation. So pilots are trained in simulators. and you want to train somebody how to use a sharp knife or how to work with fire, or, safety and security requires training. You can train a dog what to do. But human beings, people, especially when it comes to how we're going to take care of each other in service situations, it can't just be constant training, because then you turn people into robots. What's needed instead is what we refer to as service education. People need to actually be taught to think more effectively about what service is, what other people need, appreciate, and value, and then to come up with next steps or next things to say that actually deliver and create that value for somebody else.
Right. And I can really understand that. And you work mostly with large corporations, and a lot of our audience are small business owners, solo practitioners. How would this principle translate to what they have to learn in order to make their business work?
Well, actually, small businesses have a huge advantage in this area over much larger organizations, because just by nature of size, you naturally have a more close connection and intimate relationship, not only with your customers, but also amongst your team members, amongst your staff. So a small company can actually very quickly create what I call an internal culture of uplifting service, where people are not coming to work and just saying, well, I'll do my job, you do your job, but they're actually coming to work to help each other, serve one another, and ultimately create an even better service experience for the external customer. Now, the way that a small business can actually beat the large ones is by deepening that personal connection. Taking the time to look people in the eye, taking the time to give a personal compliment, taking a time to call somebody back and say, thanks for being our customer, just check in to make sure everything's okay. Large organizations can't do that for the thousands and millions of transactions that they have, or if they do, it's going to have to be in an automated manner. Small companies can reach across that time, across that distance, make the connection more quickly and more personally, and stand out.
So for a small business or even a solo practitioner, what should they focus on so that they have a mindset that puts them in a position of really putting their need for income aside for a moment so they can serve their customers?
Got it. Well, you've put your finger on something when you said put your personal interest, your income, your bonus, your whatever, put it aside for a moment. So there's a definition of the word service that I've created, and you can see it in the book, Uplifting Service, and it goes like this. Service is taking action to create value for someone else. Now, when you think about that, it kind of seems obvious. Yeah, right. Service is taking action, and it's got to be action that somebody else appreciates, and there's got to be somebody else to appreciate it. But when you look at that definition, then you suddenly realize that the most important part of the definition is not the action that you take, and it's not even the value that you create. The first and most important thing is, who is the someone else that you're doing this for? Because if you don't start by understanding them, who they are, what they want, what they need, what they hope for, what they're afraid of, then the action that you take is going to be a hit or miss situation. But the good news is that when you focus on the other person first, when you focus on someone else, and you realize and you learn what it is that they appreciate, then you can take action that creates value for them. And when that works, the value comes back to you. The more value that you create and deliver for other people, the more they're going to be willing to pay you. The more they're going to come back and work with you again. The more they're going to refer you to other people. The more they're going to give you compliments. But it doesn't start by looking for the money or the compliments. It starts by looking out for the well-being of another person.
One of my theories is that this is my theory of marketing, is that all anybody really wants is for mommy or daddy to love them and to tell them that they're a good boy or girl. And if you can do that for people, then they'll be loyal to you and your business.
Right. And the early root of that may have been mommy and daddy and good boy, good girl. But as we go into life, people are starving for a sense of acknowledgement, appreciation, dignity, respect. And there's so many ways that we can show that to each other that don't cost a thing and that don't take much time. So for example, every time I'm in a store and someone serves me, I'll just take a moment to say, "Hi, what's your name?" And she's a cashier. Nobody's asked her that all day long. She said, "My name is Patty." I go, "Hi, Patty. Thanks for taking care of me today." And she's, a little bit perplexed on her side, but she's smiling. And then when I'm done, I go, "Thanks, Patty. Have a good day," and walk out. Okay, it took a little bit of effort on my part, but the experience of being served by Patty as I was watching her then ringing up whatever it is that I bought, it also fed me because I could feel that she was happier. I could see that she was smiling. I could tell that I'd made a positive difference in her life, and what goes around comes around. So when I go out in the world and I want to have a good day, the way I do it is just by focusing on making sure that other people have a good day.
And smiling a lot. It really makes a difference. They're
huge.
You meet people and everybody's in this personal, I'm having a bad day space. And it's, there's no way to connect when you're doing that. And so
Joan, since you brought this up, just let me jump in with something here. I just watched a talk on TED.
Yes.
TED.com.
Yes.
If you go there and you just type in smiling, and there's a scientist who actually has done research on smiling. And of the many statistics, the one that stood out for me is he took all of the baseball cards from Major League Baseball players over just like 20 years and put them all into a computer and had the computer scan the faces and then sort the faces based upon whether or not the baseball player was not smiling a little bit but not showing any teeth, had a big smile, or had a really big grin on their face. And then they tracked those against longevity of the players to see how long they lived. And it was an absolutely statistically significant correlation that the baseball players who had the biggest smiles lived longer.
I like that, since I'm a person who smiles all the time.
There you go.
That's very good news.
Yep.
It was interesting when I was learning how to do public speaking. I had a coach, and she said to me, "Joan, the biggest advantage you have is that you just keep smiling." And I noticed that when I meet people, because I smile so much, and in business too, when I had my crystal business, any of the businesses that I've had, the fact that I'm so open to people really makes a difference. And I think it's that whole thing of people just wanting to know someone sees them.
That's right. And cares.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you think about social media? And do you think that this is a good tool for connecting or even for doing customer service?
Well, I think it's an amazing innovation in technology that all of us have to reckon with. And, I'll put it in three different ways. One is that, and we all know this, when something goes wrong, every single customer in the world today has the ability to push you viral. They can flame you online. They can damage your reputation. And unfortunately, people will often do it in an anonymous manner. So the stakes have automatically gotten higher for companies. You just can't afford to leave a customer feeling bad about the service that you deliver. But the positive side is there too, that with things like, reviews on Amazon.com, where you can put a number of stars, or on Yelp or on TripAdvisor, or so many other, social network community sites where your fans, your ambassadors, your advocates, your happy customers, they can also do a lot more for you today to build your reputation and even to defend you in public when somebody else is flaming you. So social media, is a pro and a con in that regard. As far as servicing people through social media channels, it's increasingly important, and companies really need to put the attention and the effort into doing it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it in every channel. What you want to do is figure out which channels are the ones that are most appreciated and frequented by your customer segment, and then dedicate the effort and the resources to spending time there, developing a profile and an identity there, and being responsive in that space.
Do you think that the age of your market makes a difference? I know a lot of older people are on Facebook, for example, but they don't necessarily think about going there for customer service.
Well, some of that is going to change as Facebook itself gets their algorithms more and more intensively fine-tuned. Google, of course, does the same thing, where what you're going to see on the side starts to show up as being directly correlated to what you and your friends are chatting about. Or even if you have a complaint about something, you're telling people online that in some way that company could be notified and then be able to reach out to you. It's a little bit of a big brother situation, but with everything that we've learned about the NSA and snooping since Edward Snowden's, disclosures, I think all of us have to accept that world of privacy is pretty much gone. So then the question as a company is, how do you want to play in that space? And as a customer. One of the things about the phrase customer service is that there are two parts to that phrase. One of those parts is the service. That's the service provider who should give you a good experience. But the other part of the phrase, 50% of the equation, is the customer. And customers can have a huge impact on the quality of service that we receive simply by committing ourselves to being better customers, being more appreciative, being a little bit patient, being the person who has the information ready that the service representative is going to need, and being the customer that gives well-deserved compliments that helps to motivate and build the morale of other service providers.
Sounds like do unto others as you want others to do unto you.
Yes, the only point that's missing in there is do it first.
Okay, good idea.
Right, do unto others first, the way you then like them to respond and take care of you in response.
In your book, you talk quite a bit about Singapore and how they've made a science out of customer service. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Singapore is an amazing little country. It's one city. So imagine an island that's 5 times the size of Manhattan, and that's the entire country. There's 5 million people on it. It's essentially a rock in a convenient geographic location near some shipping lanes. So it has a very busy harbor, and it's a good place for logistics and supply chain activity. But there's no agricultural hinterland. There's no oil reserves. It's just people on a rock. And 30 years ago, the economy was based on low-cost manufacturing and low-cost back-office administrative operations. But as we got into the 1990s, all of that left Singapore, and it either went to China for manufacturing or it went to India for low-cost back-office processing. And the Singapore economy was going to be hollowed out. Now, fortunately, the government of Singapore is very pragmatic. And when you said they made it into a science, the whole country is run like one big conglomerate. And they looked forward and realized that the economy would need to be reinvented based on services. So today, 30 years later, you have an economy that's based on financial services, legal services, medical services, convention and hospitality services, educational services. It's an amazing city that is all based on serving other people. And the reason I went there is because the school system had prepared people to work in factories. It hadn't prepared the population to respond to all of the unique and different customer requests that come in when you are in a service economy. So my job was to go there back in 1990 to help develop a curriculum to uplift the service in the entire nation of Singapore. And that 1 week became 2 weeks, and it became a month and a year, and I've been there now for 23 years.
And you obviously did a very good job.
Well, it's a continuous work in progress. Singapore today has got tremendous infrastructure, speed, efficiency, accuracy, but the warm-heartedness, the generosity, the compassion, that's still an ongoing project that we're working on right now.
And it must give you a really deep sense of personal satisfaction when you look around and you see everything that you've helped to create there.
It really does, Joan. And because it's one small city and because, I'm an expatriate, I look like a white American, not a Chinese native Singaporean. And so many people in the country over the 20 years have been in one of my classes or have recognized me from a TV appearance or have bought a copy of my book when my picture was in it. that I walk down the street and I'm constantly, people, hi, Ron, nice to see you, Ron, which means that I can never be anonymous in Singapore. And it's one of the reasons that I travel around the world a lot, is to at least reclaim a little anonymity for myself from time to time.
And you've spoken to so many people as a speaker that you really have quite, I would say, a following, a platform. I mean, you've done an amazing job as a single person to establish yourself on a planetary level.
Well, thank you, Joan. I mean, you know how much I enjoy traveling, and you and I met when I jumped on an airplane to come out to see you in Arizona many years ago. And that travel bug bit me when I was in college. And, I think I've been infected with it ever since. And fortunately, I still enjoy it.
And you are one of the finest public speakers that I've ever seen. I've seen a number of your videos when you're talking to huge audiences. And I come across a lot of people who think about public speaking and they have a desire to do it. And I just wonder if you could give a few pointers if someone is thinking about doing more professional speaking or public speaking, not necessarily as a professional speaker, some pointers that you can give to someone who might be getting started.
Sure. Well, for somebody who's interested in public speaking, there is an organization called Toastmasters, which is a wonderful volunteer organization of people who just want to improve their public speaking skills. For people who do want to go pro, who want to be able to charge for their speaking time, and I should say it's a wonderful profession, there's an organization called the National Speakers Association, NSA. And if you just go online to find either Toastmasters or the National Speakers Association, both of them are organizations just absolutely dedicated to helping new people learn the tools of the trade, learn how the business works if you want to go pro, and welcome new colleagues into the field. The personal advice I would give to anyone who's ever giving a speech, it's the simplest thing in the world, and that is that your focus should be on loving the people in your audience. So when you walk up on stage or you're standing off in the wings and looking out at the people you're going to speak to, don't be thinking about yourself and you're nervous and what are you going to say and what are the words. Look at the people you're going to talk to. Make a connection with them, even if they don't look at you eye to eye because you're off to the side. Think about what you can do to make them feel good, how to make their day brighter, how to have the next hour of time or as much time as you're going to be speaking be something that will make them feel good about themselves. And if you have that kind of focus when you walk up to the podium or you walk up on stage, they will feel it and they will welcome you and all your nervousness will go away. You can just launch in and be yourself and love them. And it'll be a very successful experience for everybody.
Those are really good points. And I know when I'm standing in front of a group of people, I don't speak to groups that are anywhere near the size of yours, but it's like I try to imagine that I'm putting my arms around everybody in the room. It's like, let me mother you for the hour. Yeah, for the hour that we're going to be here. No matter what you do, you're okay.
That's right.
And I mean, there's so much that goes on in this world where people are afraid of being who they are and what they're doing, and if you can give them that permission, even in consciousness for a few minutes, I think that really works.
That really does. It really does, Joan.
Okay, so how can people learn more about you and your book?
Sure. Well, about the book is the really easy one because it's easy to remember the URL and to spell it correctly. Just go to www.upliftingservice.com. That's upliftingservice.com. And you can get the whole first section of the book for free as a PDF download. Now, when you click around on that site, you'll also find my company website, which is called upyourservice.com. And that company is really the larger business that I built beyond myself as the solo speaker. That business has a whole suite of curriculum that I've developed where I'm in the curriculum in short video clips. And then our company trains and certifies other people inside of our client organizations in a train the trainer model so they can teach the classes without me there. I'll be there on video, but I don't have to be there in person. And with that model, we've now been able to reach out into 15 different languages to client organizations and industries all over the world. For people who are interested in knowing more about me personally, the website is called ronkaufman.com. That's RONKAUFMAN.com. Or just go to YouTube and type in Ron Kaufman. You'll find, I think there's about 280 clips there now.
I hope people will check up on it because you said that the first part of your book is available and
for free.
For free, and it's really an interesting read. And they say that who you surround yourself with in life makes a difference for you and where you're going in life. And I'm really glad that you're one of the people that has been in my orbit all these years. Because I really admire who you are and what you've accomplished.
Well, thank you, Joan. You've kept me in your orbit. And although you and I don't talk, but once in a blue moon, we'll send an email to each other. We've always been connected at the heart from the beginning. And I think that kind of thing endures across time and across distance and is what it is that makes us humans with each other.
It's the connection.
Yeah.
Which is all that matters. Well, thank you so much for taking the time from your very busy schedule and talking to us today. And I look forward to continuing to connect to you in the future.
Well, thank you, Joan. I look forward to sharing this recording with everybody who's on our mailing list and having all your readers and listeners appreciate it as well. Thanks for the privilege of serving the world with you today.
Thank you. And I look, it's like I don't want to say goodbye, but let's say goodbye.
Thanks, Joan. God bless.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.